Welcome to Losing a Child, Always Andy's Mom. On this podcast, we journey through the devastating experience of the death of a child. Grief is seldom discussed openly in our culture, and the death of a child makes people feel even more uncomfortable. We approach the topic openly and honestly, speaking to people who have lost loved ones and experts who help care for them. Whether you are a parent experiencing loss or someone who wants to support another going through this tragedy, this podcast strives to offer hope and help.
Welcome to episode number 325 of Losing a Child, Always Andy's Mom. I'm Marcy Larson, Andy's mom. Okay, I'm going to start out by doing something a little different. I always end each episode by you hearing Andy sing, and I am going to start this episode with some singing, so I want you to listen carefully. For those of you who listen all the way to the end every week and hear Andy, you will notice that that was not Andy today. That was in fact Pike. Pike is Mika's son and is the reason we are having this week's podcast. That solo is the beginning of a song called Once in Royal David City. It is the opening song for the Grand Rapids Choir of Men and Boys Lessons and Carols, and any lessons and carols sung worldwide every single year. And it seemed fitting to start the episode that way this week. And it also is fitting that this is at the beginning of December, just when we're going into that Christmas season, and only about a week before it will be sung here in Grand Rapids by Andy's choir, the Grand Rapids Choir of Men and Boys. Now, neither Andy nor Peter ever got that solo, but it is a beautiful one, and one that certainly brings back a lot of amazing memories for me. So I hope you all enjoyed it. Now you're going to get to hear all about Pike from Pike's mom, Mika, and we'll talk about choir a bit and just about our boys in general. I know you're going to enjoy it so much. This week, we do not have a sponsor for the episode, but I do want to do a little extra thank you to Mika, because Mika did sponsor an episode just a few weeks ago in honor of Pike's birthday. So she did sponsor an episode, and I thank you again so much for that. I also do want to talk about the upcoming live stream. So I know this introduction is getting a little long, but I am very excited about the live stream. So the live stream will be taking place on Monday, December 21st at 4:00 p.m. And that is for the episode that will air on Christmas Day. So we are going to do something special. We were talking a lot recently about memories and having memories of your child. And Christmas memories can be really bittersweet things, because they can just feel like they're ripping your heart apart when you think about those past Christmases, but they can always give you a little bit of a smile too. So what we'd like to do this year is talk about some of those Christmas memories. So maybe it was a specific present that you gave your child or your child gave you, or another special Christmas story. And we want to share a lot of those stories on this live stream. So you can email those to me ahead of time. And I'd love, love, love for you to email some pictures. So whether it's a picture of your child with that gift that's in the story or something else, I would like to do that, because as you know, we have a new member of our staff who is helping to do the social media, and she is going to do a little video that will be on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and those videos are going to be of us speaking a little bit, maybe parts of the live stream or some things that we record ahead of time, maybe some of these little stories that are sent in, and she is going to help us put together cool little video clips that we're going to be airing Christmas week. So send me a picture, send me a story, Maybe part of your story is going to be read either on the live stream or on that video. And then you can share it all with family and friends at Christmas, and it will give you a new little Christmas memory. So this is the first time I'm announcing this. I'd love for you to get those all emailed to me. So you can email those to me, Marcy, MARCY, at andysmom.com. Again, a story, a picture, whatever you want. But we just want to make this really, really special. And you'll hear about it in the upcoming weeks too. But take a minute to do it now to get it in ahead of time. Right now, though, I just want you to sit back and enjoy listening to Mika, Pike's mom. Thank you so much, Mika, for coming on the Always Andy's Mom podcast today.
Thanks for having me. I love Pike is one of my favorite subjects, so love talking about him.
Of course it is. It's great to be able to have that freedom to be able to talk about our kids, isn't it? Because after they're gone, sometimes you feel like you can't.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot of situations where you can talk about your child that's in heaven, because we're not there. So
I know. And then people think it's kind of awkward and weird. And I love that in this setting, it's not awkward and not weird. It's just normal.
Yes.
And I wish it was more often. I wish we could just do it more often and not make people feel uncomfortable. But it is what it is.
For sure. Yeah, I'm trying to, my friends, I'll just bring them up in casual conversation, and they're really good about, just letting me talk,
Oh, good.
And they don't get weird about it because they miss them too,
Yeah. Good. That's great. Well, we started out the episode by playing the beautiful music that you sent me as a video of Pike singing Once in Royal David City. I mean, it just brought back so many memories for me.
Isn't that so much like Andy? It's just so, it's just so cool how you have that connection.
Yeah. So, obviously Andy was in the Grand Rapids Choir of Men and Boys, and they have their Christmas concerts every single year. And every single year, the first song is Once in Royal David City.
Oh, wow.
With a solo, which my boys never got that solo. So kudos to Pike for getting that solo. Yes. It's a tough one to do and really amazing. So was he in a choir that did that regularly, or was that?
He was in a classical school. They have a Christmas chapel. And every Christmas they start off with that song. And so it's tough for them to find a boy whose voice has not changed yet.
Yeah.
But that is mature enough to handle a solo.
Yeah. It's really high. It's a really high solo.
Yeah. He was very talented. I mean, he played in the bell choir at church and at school. Loved that. And then, sang a lot at church. So he just grew up that way. So it was just kind of a normal thing. And I was surprised that he even wanted to do the solo. He had never done anything like that. And so.
Oh, he did it perfectly.
It was just kind of, he was always very gregarious and, and just kind of funny, just extremely hilarious. But when it came time for the solo, he's very serious.
Yes. That's like that with our choir too. Andy was always such a silly guy, always all over the place. And his choir director couldn't even believe it, that was Andy, because Andy was always so serious with choir.
Yeah, exactly.
So just to educate the listeners a little bit, so Once in Royal David City is a song that is sung in England, they do this traditional concert that's called Lessons and Carols. And so it's lessons that are read. There are passages from the Bible that are read, and then there are songs in the middle. And always, I think, it starts out with Once in Royal David City, and then it goes through a lot of the stories of Jesus' birth and other biblical passages all the way through. There's another passage that's always read that is from the kind of the creation story from Genesis, where God's talking to Eve. And Andy actually read that lesson one year, and we played that at his funeral too. Actually, we played that was the beginning, because of course we picked out different readings, and so Andy actually did one of the readings for his own funeral, because we had recording of him doing it. So, and then we ended his funeral service with him singing that last verse, Boy in a Manger. So, which was also in Lessons and Carols that year. That's one that's like a lot of the carols are switched up all the time. They don't do the same ones, but Once in Royal David City is always done. And again, you know, my boys never did get to sing that solo. They loved it, but it brought back so many memories for me because I've just heard that so many times going to concert after concert after concert. And you know what's really cool too? So Andy's favorite choir is the St. John's Choir in England, who came and sang at the Andy Larson Memorial Concert, the second one. And in that choir, I don't know if this is still the case, but in that choir, when they would sing that song, Once in Royal David City, the director would decide spontaneously who was going to sing the solo that day. And he would just point. He would just point to the boy, and that boy would have to sing it.
Oh my goodness!
Because they're all so amazingly talented. Any of them could sing it, and so whoever he felt like he wanted to sing it at that time, you just point, and they just go.
Wow,
I know.
So amazing.
I was like, that's probably a story you didn't know. I would imagine.
No, I didn't know. I mean, our Christmas chapel, they same thing, Lessons and Carols. You know, he had grown up, you know, going to Christmas chapel. They picked different children to read different passages of scripture and sing different things. But we were always in the audience. You know, he had never like really performed before. I mean, always at church, but, you know, never a solo. So that's just so cool that another connection.
Yeah.
Pike, he was just such a silly boy. And for him to have, I mean, when you're talking about Andy's funeral, I mean, same thing with Pike. I mean, he had so many things. He had his own playlist, which is called Christ is Dope. And so we used so many of those songs in his funeral. And then when he was in hospital, he was a very deep thinker once he was in the hospital because there wasn't a whole lot of silly there. And he would text his student pastor different things. And he would talk about life and life lessons and told his pastor he was going to get so much joy from this. And he was really talking more about his battle.
Yeah.
And how he knew that he was going to see the other side of healing. And he was going to share with the world and glorify God in his healing. And he meant he was going to get so much joy from being able to share what God had done for him. But now he's sharing from heaven.
Yeah.
And that's my job, is to share for him.
Right.
But anyway, when you were talking about, you know, you do so many things that Andy said and did in the funeral. I mean, same thing for Pike. So many of the things that he sang and he loved and he said to his pastor, we used in the funeral. And yeah.
Wow. And then we have another connection that your current last name is my maiden name, which I thought was kind of crazy.
It's so crazy.
I know.
That's so crazy.
I know. You wrote to me, and then our boys both sang in this choir, and obviously you had no idea what my maiden name was, but you signed it like, oh my word, because I have an unusual, less common spelling of my maiden name. I'm not going to announce it right here, but it's less common spelling than the norm, and yours is the same spelling, the same everything. And of course, our first names both start with M. And I thought, wow, this woman and I have a lot of connections. Yeah. So it was pretty fun.
Yes. Well, and constantly having to spell my last name. I mean, that's kind of a joke in our family. But also, Pike's middle name is Andrew. And so, you know, it's just so crazy.
Yeah. So many little connections. And you didn't even think about that until today, right? You told me you didn't even think about the fact.
Yes, I thought about that today. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, anyway, why don't you start out by just telling us about Pike just as a kid and,
oh my goodness, you know. So much to say about Pike. A lot of times I do talk about him in the present tense because I feel like he is still those things.
Yeah.
But just a loving kid, full of joy and laughter and constantly made us laugh, constantly into things. And he had so many hobbies. He squeezed a lot of life into his 14 years. He was the youngest member of the North Texas Bonsai Society.
Wow.
Yeah. So he hung out with old people a lot. He loved pickleball. So he would always joke that, you know, when you got up against an older person at pickleball, you never knew what you were going to get. You know, they would be either really, really, really good or a beginner, and so he loved pickleball. He loved football and basketball. He was very boy. He loved nature. I mean, he loved animals and fish, and he loved being out in nature. He bought a lawn aerator, and he was going to have a landscaping business. Speaking of businesses, he was going to have a betta breeding business. So he loved betta fish. Actually, it's betta fish, not beta fish, but he loved them so much, and he was going to get his friends to invest in this
Really?
betta breeding project that he was going to do. So he had all these fish tanks set up, and he was going to do all this breeding, and he was going to do landscaping on the side. And he just had so many things that he was interested in. He had a huge rock collection at one time. If you were over at our house, he would invite you to his very messy room to see his rock collection. And it would take about 30 minutes because he had to tell you about all the rocks that he had.
Oh, fun.
He knew a lot about animals. He would watch, shows from Dr. Oakley, if you know who that is. She's in Alaska, and she's a vet in Alaska, and she would do, these procedures on animals, and he was so into that. But then he would watch, Octonauts, which is like a preschool animal show, and he knew more about animals than anybody I know.
Oh, that's awesome.
He loved nature. He loved little kids. Somebody sent me a story the other day about her son. Pike was over playing with her son, but his little brother also had a friend over. And so he taught the little friend how to do yo-yos. He was very much into yo-yos. So anyway, he just loved anything in God's creation. He just loved it. He was always doing something new and crazy, and you just never knew what he was going to come up with. He loved to cook. He was very much into Asian food. We have 5 barbecue grills because he wanted to grill so much steak, and he was very much into Wagyu beef. He would tell you all about the Wagyu cows in Japan. We have a picture of when he was home from chemo one time. The thing he wanted to do, he wanted to get sushi first.
Uh-huh.
And then he wanted to come home and make fried rice on the flat top grill. So he was just into so many things.
Oh, sounds like such a fun kid.
He was so fun.
Did Pike have brothers or sisters?
Yes.
Okay.
I have an oldest daughter. She's a pharmacist in Chicago.
Uh-huh.
And a transplant pharmacist. And then an older brother, and he is in Tulsa. And then an older sister, and she is at Texas A&M.
Okay.
Go Aggies. Yeah.
So he was your baby.
Yeah. Yeah. The baby. Very much the baby. I mean, the older kids talk about how spoiled he was. And he was to an extent, but I mean, he was just so much fun, that
Yeah.
he would just make everything fun and, always making you laugh.
Oh, that's amazing. Very awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to talk now about Pike's medical journey a little bit? Mm-hmm.
I saw a new side of my boy.
Yeah.
In 2022, I got to go back a minute.
Yeah.
But I had lymphoma.
Oh, you had lymphoma. Okay.
Yeah, it was very, very, very aggressive. And so I went to the ER thinking I had pneumonia, and it turned out to be lymphoma, and they started chemo right away. And it was so aggressive that I would have to stay in the hospital for chemo. So I would stay in the hospital for 7 days with a 24-hour drip of chemo. And then I would get 2 weeks off and then go back into the hospital for another week for chemo. So I had amazing, amazing doctors. I mean, there was so much hope because it was a hard fight for sure. And I had a stem cell transplant. But, Pike would visit, and he just was so caring and just great. He was a great comforter.
Because how old was he then?
He would have been like 12 at the time. So yeah, I did that was about a year-ish, a little less than a year. And so then my husband had lost his job right before that. So we were, trying to manage me being in the hospital, but I had to keep my job because I had the insurance. So I would be in the hospital for a week, have recovery for a week, and go back to work for a week. And then we would just start the process all over again.
Wow.
And then transplant really took me out because I don't know, you probably know this, but after transplant, you're in isolation for 100 days. So that 100 days is key. It's like you're holding on to that 100 days when you can go to church again and be out in public. But anyway, he watched me fight lymphoma, and life was getting back to normal. My husband found a job. life was getting back to normal. And then that summer, Pike got really sick, and he was at a camp, and they just thought it was altitude sickness. And so when he came home, he just seemed to get sicker and sicker. We kept taking to the doctor, and sicker. And finally, the doctor said, we need to run blood tests. We need to see what's going on. So, I mean, they knew the minute they did that blood test that he had leukemia.
Wow.
And it was very aggressive. And he also found out later, he had a gene mutation on top of that. He started chemo the very next day. The doctor just prepared it. He was like, you're going to be here for at least a month. And, I was like, we've already done the cancer thing. We already have been through that road. We should not have to do this again.
Yeah.
And, when I was sick, I was just like, I'm just glad, people would say, I'm so sorry you're sick. And I'm just like, I'm so glad it's me and not one of my kids. And it hit my healthiest child. Pike was always the healthiest child I had. So anyway, he had chemo. It's very aggressive. He did great. I mean, it was just when he first went in, though, you probably know, but I don't know that your listeners do, but he had so many white blood cells that they collected in his feet. And so he couldn't walk for the first several days until the chemo actually made him feel better because it actually reduced the white blood cell count so that he could walk.
Yeah.
He did get mouth sores, but after that, he was doing so much better after he got through that. And he fought it like a champ. He never complained about a single procedure, anything they wanted to do. He's like, let's go, let's do this. And there was a drug trial for the chemo that he was on that he ended up being on. They had never tried it on a pediatric patient, but they had luck with adult patients. And so they asked if we wanted to do this chemo trial. And at first we thought, no, I don't think we want to sign up for something new. And my daughter, being a transplant pharmacist, she was like, when you're in a study, they watch you really, really well because they have to turn in paperwork. They have to do all these things to make sure that they're keeping up with whatever the drug trial wants you to do. And because they said we could stop anytime we wanted to, we said, okay. So he was patient number 1 on this chemo trial in the whole English speaking world. And that's so Pike. I mean, he would happily be the first one to do anything.
Uh-huh.
So he did the drug trial and he did need transplant. So we did a stem cell donor drive to look for a donor because we thought at the time, because I had lymphoma the year before, that there was a genetic reason that blood cancer had occurred so quickly. And so we just assumed that the siblings would, even if they were a match, that there was some type of mutation or some type of reason that they couldn't be a match for Pike.
Did they look at that later then and see?
Yes, they ended up looking at that, and there was no genetic connection between blood cancer. I do have a mutation, but it doesn't have to do with blood cancer.
Really? Wow. Okay. I certainly assumed that too. Mm-hmm.
Everybody just assumed that. So we did the stem cell drive and it was wonderful. He was so excited to be the catalyst for the stem cell drive that we did at our church. We had the biggest post-COVID stem cell drive like ever for this organization, which is called Earl Young's team.
Uh-huh.
Earl Young is an Olympic medalist and he developed leukemia later in life. He had a donor that was in Germany and she was actually past the age of a normal donor, but she was his only genetic match in the whole entire world. And so because she was older, Earl Young made it his mission to accept older people into the bone marrow donation bank.
Mm-hmm.
So we got connected with Earl Young's team and they had the biggest drive like ever since post-COVID. Pike was so excited that he, it wasn't just a donor for him, it was a donor for other children. For other people that were fighting 75 different diseases are cured with stem cell transplant.
Wow. I didn't even know that.
We met someone else in the hospital that had aplastic anemia, and that is cured with stem cell transplant. Sickle cell is cured with stem cell transplant. There's so many things that they're doing with stem cell transplant. So anyway, we did the drive. We got 2,600 people in the donor drive.
Wow.
And it keeps growing because we kept his online virtual drive open, and so it keeps growing.
What is that for people who might be interested? You shouldn't say that.
You can go to earlyoungsteam.org. You can request the company is actually in Germany, because in Germany, this is the side note, but in Germany, when you turn 18, it's just the culture. You automatically register to become a stem cell donor. In America, however, only 2% of people are registered to be stem cell donors. So Earl Young is trying to really educate people and try to get more people involved in stem cell donation.
Yeah.
And it's just easy. It's just a swab of your cheek. That's all it is. I hope that you will link notes on the podcast about it.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
I mean, it's so simple to you swab your cheek. It's 6 minutes, including the paperwork, everything. It's 6 minutes. You could see your genetic match walking down the street, but if they're not registered in the bank, then you would have no idea that you had a match if you ever needed one. Anyway, a lot of the donations actually come from Germany, because that's where most people are registered to become stem cell donors. So we're trying to, with Earl Young's team, we're trying to get more diversity because America, it's very diverse. And so we're trying to get more diversity into the stem cell donation bank. I can't think of an easier way to save somebody's life. I mean, it's just amazing.
Right. Because it's not that hard to become a donor, really. I mean, no.
No, it's all it is most people are done like a blood donation. It's just done in the arm. Back in the day, my niece actually she's not blood related, but had leukemia, and they had to do the donation in your spine. Well, they don't have to do that anymore. They can just do it through your arm. It's very, very simple. If it's a baby, however, if it's a baby under the age of 2, I believe, they do have to do it in your hip. But it's just a day procedure. You're a little sore, but you've saved a baby's life. I mean, I just cannot think of an easier way to save a life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Pike was, at first he thought, this whole donor drive was just for him. And when we explained to him, no, everybody that comes to the donor drive, they'll be in there until they're 65, I believe. So he was pumped at that point. He was like, so I could be the reason that somebody gets their donor, and he was just so excited about that. It gave his illness purpose.
Yeah.
He loved that.
Yeah. I'm sure he did.
But then we found out that there was no genetic link between mine and Pike's cancers. So his brother ended up being 100% match. And so his brother ended up being his donor. My son Philip saved Pike's life.
Wow.
So it was amazing for our whole family.
Yeah.
For that to happen. And Pike was since the first week of chemo, Pike was in remission. His remission had begun the very first week. He fought so hard. So he was in the hospital for about 9 months at this point, and he got through a transplant great. It was amazing to see how much he matured. He grew 5 inches when he was in the hospital.
Wow.
During chemo. He matured so much, became a really deep thinker. Being the baby of our family, he was a little spoiled. I just saw so much strength of character, physical strength. He became, I was always proud of Pike, that the way he fought without complaint and without hesitation, it just really made me proud.
Yeah.
It was inspiring to see. So anyway, he made it through transplant. It was great. He was home. He was between chemos. They would let him go home. So he actually checked into the hospital for chemo 3 on his birthday. And he said it was the best birthday ever because he got a visit from the Chiefs. They brought the Super Bowl ring and he got to try that on. And
really?
Yeah. And we had friends from school and church, and they had a parade outside the window for him.
This is his 14th birthday then?
14th birthday, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Time. He'd had a blast. He said it was the best birthday ever. And the hospital was great. When he checked in, they had his room all decorated, and they gave him, I don't know if you can see, they gave him Legos, a huge thing of Legos. He loved Legos too. That's how he passed the time a lot. It was, doing Legos, and he did homeschool in the hospital. Our school was good enough to let him do that, so that he was able to graduate 8th grade while he was in the hospital. And he crushed during his chemo. He had a exam. He was going to go to a different school for high school, and so he had to take an exam. It was a 4-hour exam. It was during chemo. And so we arranged with the nurses. We're like, you can't, because it was proctored. They had somebody on the screen watching him. We had to say the nurse. It was hard to keep the nurses out of his room. Because they loved him so much. They
Right.
took such good care of him. He crushed that. It was just like he was just doing life. And, it was in the hospital, but he was just doing life great. And he was making so many plans of coming out of the hospital. So he got through six rounds of chemo and then a transplant.
Mm-hmm.
Transplant it's hard. It's not only physically hard, but it takes an emotional toll because you have to be isolated for 100 days. And that was not Pike. He loved people. He loved being out. Luckily, we could be outside after his transplant, but he couldn't go to church. He couldn't do a lot of things that he liked to do. So it was after transplant, and he was almost to his 100 days. He was like at 90 days. And he developed graft versus host disease, which is GVHD. So he got a rash, and he was like, I got this rash. And, we kind of played it off. We are like, okay, we'll go in. Well, immediately they checked him into the hospital. They said, he has graft versus host disease, and we're going to have to get aggressive with this. So he was doing fine, but it started eating at his guts. And so I brought him. He had a hard time eating. He was kind of nauseous, but one day he wanted a big hamburger. So I brought him a big hamburger, and I got so much trouble from the doctors because it came right back up. And so because he just loved food so much, and he wanted to eat. That was the hardest part, I think, that he couldn't eat his sushi and all of his other Asian food that he loved so much. We were trying to get through that. And the way they fight GVHD is they reduce your immunities because it's basically your body fighting against itself.
Right.
They reduce your immunity so your body doesn't fight as much. He developed several viruses. I mean, his gut was just, he ate less and less. So we ended up getting him IV nutrition that he hated because he loved eating so much.
Yeah.
He went on IV nutrition, and he was doing fine. A friend of ours gave him a puppy, which just rejuvenated him. He just loved it. So we snuck the puppy in, and we ended up getting a doctor's note to make him the puppy a support animal. But he loved this puppy. He's fighting all these viruses, and he had a lung X-ray, and he had these white patches in his lungs, and they're like, we want to be able to treat it for what it is. It's not pneumonia. It's not a virus that we know we can pinpoint what it is. They said, we want to take an X-ray, a biopsy, to see what this is in his lungs, what these white patches are. He had never hesitated about any procedure they wanted to do, but this one in particular, he's like, can we wait until tomorrow? And I said, well, tomorrow they were doing another procedure where they basically filter out still had a central line. And so they would filter out his blood, and it was horrible to watch, but he never complained. The needle was this long. I mean, but he never complained. He was like, yeah, we'll do that. But he was going to have that procedure the next day. So he would have it twice a week to kind of filter out his blood, treat it, and put it back in. It was to treat his GVHD. He was supposed to have that the next day. So he was asking if they could do the lung biopsy the next day. And, I had to tell him, no, you're going to have your blood procedure tomorrow. So we really kind of need to do it today. So he said, okay. And he went in, and he had the bone marrow biopsy, which he had a bunch of bone marrow biopsies, and that went completely fine. But when they did lung biopsy, something happened, and he was coughing up blood. We don't know what happened. He went into cardiac arrest, and they resuscitated him, but it took 18 minutes. And we don't know when he was breathing, if he was breathing. He came out of that, and when he'd gone in, he was, joking around. He took a picture. If you know what Be Real is, it's like you take when it goes off on your phone, you take a picture of whatever you're doing at that time. So the anesthesiologist was there doing, giving him anesthesia for the procedure at the time that his Be Real went off. And he's like, Doc, do you care about being in my Be Real? And he's like, no, go ahead. Because this anesthesiologist loved Pike. He's like, yeah, no, go ahead. And so anyway, we were joking as he went into, his biopsy.
Yeah.
And it came out on life support. I was just like, how is this happening?
Yeah.
He had fought a perfect fight for 11 months. And I just didn't know how it could go wrong in 15 minutes,
Yeah.
We didn't know what the extent of the brain damage was from lack of oxygen. For a while, they kept him on life support. And And the neurologist came in and he said, if Pike makes it through this, he will not be the same Pike that you knew. He had damage to his occipital lobe. Is that what it's called? Occipital?
Yeah. Occipital lobe. Occipital, yeah.
Yeah, he had damage there. And he said he will not be the same Pike if he comes back. And he was still fighting the viruses at that point. He said, he probably has a week. So we, called family in, and when we had decided at that point that whatever Pike decided was his life was going to be his life, because he had shown so much maturity that he could make decisions for himself. We just decided that we weren't going to artificially keep him alive, that we were going to let him decide that. So the neurologist had told us we'd have about a week with him. And so when we were going to pull the vent, he was overbreathing the vent. I mean, like 30 minutes before they were going to pull the vent, we had family there saying goodbye, and 30 minutes before we were pulling the vent, he opens his eyes. Like, he had his eyes open the whole entire time, but he opens his eyes to, like, you could tell he was looking at you.
Yeah.
And you could tell he was trying to tell you something, but he just couldn't. They were going to pull the vent. The PICU doctor and I, we knew that he would keep breathing because he was overbreathing this vent.
Right. If you're breathing more than what it's minimum, then you should keep.
He was overbreathing it. He didn't need it.
Yeah.
And so the PICU doctor and I knew that he would keep breathing. And so I asked that he go back up to the oncology wing, because those are the people that he had been with for the last 11 months, and the nurses and doctors that we knew and loved. And I wanted him to have this it had a beautiful view of the trees in Dallas. And I mean, I just wanted him to be there. So the PICU doctor said, okay, that's what we'll do. So we went up there, and she pulled the vent, and like I knew, he kept on going. He kept breathing, and he was rejuvenated, because he was looking at us, and he kept scanning the room and looking at all of us. And this just kept going on for, because the neurologist had told us it was going to be a week. It ended up being 3.5 weeks.
Really?
And this boy fought. The day his brother was getting married, and his brother, Pike, was doing so well that the social services was setting us up basically to go home, because he didn't have cancer anymore. And these viruses were going away, and he was breathing on his own. He wasn't able to eat or move, but there was no reason for him to be in a bed in the oncology wing.
Yeah.
He would fight them when they would go in to do suction. He would fight them with his mouth. He was very much there, and he was very much aware of what was going on. He just couldn't communicate.
Right.
So his brother was getting married. We decided, because Pike was doing fine and we were kind of arranging for him to go home, he would need 24-hour care, but we were kind of setting that up. So we decided we were going to go to the wedding, and we had Pike's friends and their moms come and sit with him while we were at the wedding. And that was such a special time, because they were able to talk to Pike and read to him and watch games with him and, do things with him that they hadn't been able to do because he had been in isolation for the last 100 days. The wedding was on a Sunday. And so on Monday, we were coming back home. Our favorite nurse, she's like a member of our family now, she came to the hospital on Sunday, and she sat with Pike, and she said, she knew he was getting worse. So Monday, when we got back, it was definitely different. He was having a hard time breathing, and he was really, I really feel like he was ready to go home. He was ready, not home as in big H home. I think he was ready
to go to his heavenly home.
Yeah. I think when he coded, he and Jesus had a deal. Let me get through the wedding, and then I'm ready to come. And it was the next day after the wedding that he passed away.
Yeah. He waited until then.
He waited another 2.5 weeks to go to heaven. And I'm just, that wasn't a coincidence. That wasn't an accident.
No.
He held on, and we knew that he wouldn't want to live in a bed for the rest of his life. And he knew Jesus, and he knew that that's where he wanted to be.
Yeah. But he didn't want to have his death going over his brother's wedding, right?
He wanted his brother to get married, and he loved my daughter-in-law, loves my daughter-in-law, and he wanted that to happen.
Yeah. And them to have really, truly a happy day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we did. We had that happy day.
Oh, that's beautiful.
These tears are cleansing. It's something I have to release. I can't just hold them in,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Tears are a wonderful release of emotion, aren't they?
Mhm.
Well, so how long now has it been since Pike passed?
It was May of last year, so it's been, 17 months?
Yeah. So you're getting very close to that 1.5 year point.
Yeah.
By the time this airs, it will be a 1.5 year, won't it?
Yeah, and I just thought year 2 couldn't be worse than year 1, but it is,
Yeah,
It is.
I know.
The numbness,
It's hard to believe because you don't, yeah, because the numbness, I think, wears off.
it wears off and people stop talking about it.
Yeah. And that's true. I think everyone thinks that the first year will be the hardest. And once you get through the first year, they don't have to worry about you so much anymore. But really, that numbness is there for so long that it starts to wear off. And like you said, people just tend to disappear. And when they disappear, that's really when you need them now.
I need to be able to talk about Pike, because he's still a part of my life every day. He's the last thought I have at night and the first thing in the morning.
Yeah, right.
It's just like I relive it every single day. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think people realize that 1.5 years out, you're still reliving it every day. But it's 100% true. It's just, and I think especially for you because of your own cancer journey, right? And you having to do a transplant and you having to do all of this. I imagine that there was never a thought in your mind in some ways that Pike wouldn't be able to do it too if you did, right?
Yeah. I mean, I beat it and I'm way older and way more unhealthy than Pike,
Right.
and he had so much life left, and I don't know how to make my kids don't need me anymore, and but they need Pike and I
Well,
don't
I would say
understand.
that they would probably argue that point, but I can understand you saying it for sure.
Yeah, I just don't understand why God let me live, let Pike beat cancer, and for it to be gone in a 15-minute procedure, a typical, just an everyday routine procedure. I don't understand. I don't think I ever will this side of heaven.
No, I don't think we will. And it is so incredibly hard. So let's talk about your grief journey and what that's been like a little bit. So I know obviously 1.5 years ago, we touched a little bit on some of the special things you did for his funeral and things like that. Let's just talk about that a little bit more.
His funeral was definitely special. I have a friend whose daughter went to heaven just a year prior, 6 months prior. And she was able to get up and talk at her daughter's funeral. And I couldn't believe that she could do that, And then at Pike's funeral, I it's like, I need to say something.
Yeah.
Unbelievably, I was able to speak. I don't know how. It was supernatural power from God because it was not from me. Each of my kids were able to say something. It was very touching. My daughter was able to sing one of Pike's favorite songs. And it was a really neat time. Pike was a scout, so the scouts came out in uniform. His friends were the pallbearers. And it was a really sweet, precious time to remember him, and although there was lots of tears, it was, it's still a very sweet time. And it was kind of long because my kids all said something and my daughter sang, and Pike knew several pastors. Funny thing, another connection, Pike had a activities minister that was at the church, and Pike he was playing with a ball one time and he broke a light in the gym. And so so the church has said, hey, we're not going to let kids play in the gym anymore. And so this activities pastor, he's like, yeah, we will. And I will be there with Pike. Well, so anyway, that same pastor ended up being the chaplain at our hospital. And so
Really?
Pike was able to see him all the time. And then he's very musically talented. Sam is his name. So Sam ended up playing at his funeral. He played the guitar. Now we still have Sam is now helping with the junior worship team. And so he will now go to the hospital and encourage the nurses with some of Pike's favorite songs. And so it was a special time for his pastors that he loved. Each of them got to speak. Our kids got to speak. And there was great music because Pike loved music. And he had this playlist. So there was a lot of what Pike had unintentionally, written
Yeah.
in his funeral service. Yeah.
Yeah. It is nice when you can make it so it's honoring them.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah, we never, even though Pike fought cancer, him going to heaven was never something we talked about.
Yeah.
Because he fought so hard and he fought so well, and there was so much hope. And he, like I said, he was in remission from the minute he started chemo.
Yeah.
Anyway, we never talked about a funeral.
Right.
There was no need to.
Well, and again, you beat it, and you thought,
I beat it. Yeah.
yeah, there's no way my kid's not going to beat it if I did.
Right. Yeah. I'm just so glad that Pike had this playlist. He spoke to the pastors, and he had connections with so many people, with his friends at church. And he just, we would hear so many times that Pike was my first friend or Pike was my best friend, because he would search out people that needed a friend, little kids, kids that were younger than him. He would always seek out people that needed a buddy. And he was always that person for somebody. I mean, his friends at the funeral, I think about the friends that, his pallbearers at the funeral, they're so diverse in that, they're just so different. He would have a friend that was the greatest at sports. And then he would have a friend that, was just very shy and didn't talk to many people. And then he would have a friend that was tiny. And then he would have a friend that was, huge, and it's just, there was not a single type of person that Pike would go to be a friend, because he loved so many different kinds of people.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
What a great kid. What a great kid you raised.
Such a great kid.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why I just really connected with you and your story. And I think the other reason, obviously, is because our boys both died at 14. Right. That would make that be especially close. But I think just personality-wise, too, they just seemed like similar souls, right? So I know you kind of try to work to keep Pike's memory alive. What are some things that you've been doing?
Well, we do the we try to do stem cell drives, and we try to educate people about the importance of becoming a stem cell donor. And that is just, I think Pike would be really proud of that, that we keep that going. Mm-hmm. Earl Young's team, they are amazing. They go to college campuses. They do so much in educating and also gaining more donors. So I do that in Pike's name. I'm playing pickleball now because Pike loved pickleball so much.
Good.
I don't do it well, but I'm trying. I'm playing mahjong just because I think he would have loved it.
I play mahjong,
Well, I didn't know that.
Every Tuesday afternoon, actually.
Okay. I'm going to have to think of you on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I wish I had played more board games with him and more card games. He loved to play games. And so every Friday night, he would ask, when we weren't going to football games, he would ask to play a game, and he was like, okay, it's family game night. And I mean, you really couldn't get us past Uno because we were so tired on Fridays. But anyway, so I'm playing mahjong because he was so obsessed with anything Asian and he loved games. Doing that, I had a pretty extensive Amazon wish list. So he had a sourdough bread bowl on there. So I'm making sourdough now. He loved to cook, and I'm trying to think. There's so many things that I'm doing now. I can't play football, but or basketball. I'm just trying to do those things. I feel like I'm living for two now. I'm trying to carry on his legacy. The school planted a tree for him, and it's beautiful. Pike has this beautiful golden hair, and so it's a golden maple that the school planted, and it's just beautiful. It just stands out, just like Pike did with his. Hope to start an endowment fund at that school for families that are dealing with cancer. And so we hope to do that, get that launched pretty soon. And there's so many things that we're doing,
I love all these things that you're doing. And so what I really love about them is so many of them are just little things. I just think that is so beautiful because I feel like a lot of parents feel like they need to do this big thing, you know, that you need
Yeah.
to start a foundation or you need to do something huge. You don't. You don't. Those little special things. You playing mahjong, I love that. I love the fact that you were playing mahjong for Pike. I mean, that's such a little thing. Or playing pickleball. Those are
Pickleball.
not big things, but they are keeping Pike's memory alive just as much as if you did something, you know, huge, right?
Yeah.
They're so special and something that everybody can do. You can always do these little things.
Yeah, and we're trying to raise awareness. I mean, not only for when we have a pickleball tournament at church. And so when we do that, we do a stem cell drive at the same time.
Yes,
And the day after,
beautiful.
we do a blood drive because Pike and I both, we went through so many units of blood. I lost count of how many units of blood we went through. And so I think Pike would be so proud to be, you know, the catalyst for not only stem cell donors in the pool, but also blood drives.
Love that.
He would love to be giving life to people. Think that he would be so proud, you know, that we're doing that in his name.
I think there's no question. He's proud of every single thing that you guys are doing.
Well, and a blood drive is so easy. You call Carter Blood Care and they come out to you and do it. You know, they love that you would, you know, use your child's name for a blood drive. They just need a phone call and a location.
Yeah.
And my church is just so amazing that once a year they've said, okay, we're going to do this blood drive. And by the way, we could do a stem cell drive along with it because it's easy to do. And Earl Young's team, I mean, you just give them a call and they would come out and do a swab drive at any church, any school campus, any place where they can just get the information out. They are more than happy to do it. Sometimes when you have a cute little face like Pike's, you know, that just helps them all the more. But
right.
They just need a phone call and they will take it and run.
Yeah. I love that. I just think it's beautiful. I think it's something that I might do too. I mean, it's just a cool thing to be able to do.
Please do. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I really just love talking about you.
Thank you for letting me talk about Pike.
Oh, yes. Yes. It's just such a joy to be able to talk about our kids, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It is. I wish I could talk about it more.
Thanks for listening. If you found this helpful and would like to support the podcast, please leave a 5-star rating and comment. To help financially, you can type Andy's Mom, one word, to the number 53555. This provides a link to GiveButter, which allows donations through PayPal, Venmo, Apple Pay, or credit cards. GiveButter will provide a receipt of your tax-deductible donation, or you can visit the donation page at andysmom.com/donate. Always Andy's Mom is a registered 501c3 and can receive donations through Thrivent Financial and Benevity. Marcy loves hearing from listeners. Please feel free to reach out to her via email at marcy@andysmom.com or on the Instagram or Facebook Always Andy's Mom accounts. Sign up for the email list to get weekly episode links as well as pictures of Marcy's guests and their children. Together, let's work to inspire hope, one day at a time.